Welcome back to Light the Fuse, the Mission Impossible podcast that, yes, is still going.
Still going.
Much to our surprise at this point, I think.
Weekly
content, whether you like it or not, whether we like it or not.
Yes.
We're here. And this week we have a great episode with Mo. But
who are you?
I'm Drew and you're Charles.
Yes, I'm Charles. Hello.
And we really want to just put some out there first.
Oh,
right? Yeah. We were on the Minute Impossible episode.
Yes.
What are the minutes we did?
So Minute Impossible, they break down all the Mission Impossible movies minute by minute. We were on minutes 111 to 115 of MI2.
And those are already available.
They're already available. You can go over to the Minute Impossible podcast and check it out. However, because we've talked a lot about the beef that we have with them, that we figured we would just play a little clip from it. And you can listen to the clip, and then afterwards, if you want to listen to our full week of episodes with them, you can go check it out on the Minute Impossible podcast.
And Patreon subscribers will just send these to you, so you don't have to do any work because you're special. So
yeah,
okay. So here's a clip from our episodes.
Guys, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you so much for having us.
Can we clear the air first?
I
got something off my chest.
Okay, hold on. But if you're going to clear the air, maybe you should talk about all the shit talking you've been doing for the past few months.
That's fine. True. That's fine. I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to do it to your faces. We're going to clear the air, and we're all going to be better people for it afterwards. So we just couldn't help but notice, this theme song of yours has some very similar language to a running joke we've had since we had our theme song. So we just want to know, were we inspiration? Were we plagiarized? I mean, what are we doing here? We just want to clear the air.
I think you guys might have started before us.
Did they start the song?
Podcast.
Oh yeah,
we
started our podcast way before.
Yes.
Yeah. Way like a year before. But the song only came about would have been December of 2018.
Okay. So we had
to jump on the music then.
Yes.
But you had to jump on the overall podcast.
So you think there's a part of our our theme song written by me and composed by Scott Tofty? You think there's a similarity?
There's a similarity. There's some language that's similar, we would say.
So wait. All I basically say is, hey guys, this song has words now and it's cool now.
But there's something about we won't get sued now. That's the part I feel like we have inspiration. We contributed some inspiration to that.
Oh, well, I'll tell you the truth. I had not listened to your podcast before I wrote that.
Damn it!
But maybe we could.
I wrote that because I was like, hey, it's funny because no one cares. Our podcast is too small and no one will ever care.
Maybe we could still bring you to court though, just for fun.
Yeah.
We could still.
Sure.
Bring a
people's
lawsuit.
court.
Yeah, if there's a character witness or something that we feel like you could maybe be there.
Well, while you're there, we're going to countersue you because you say you are the only.
That was my mistake. Well, we didn't know. We
didn't know about Minute Impossible until and then once we realized, then we started to adjust, and then we started to make it into a joke.
Yes,
that it's the only Mission Impossible podcast with two guys, trapped in a closet or whatever the joke is every week.
Yeah. How do you feel now, Charles? Do you think that everything's out in the open?
Yeah, I feel like we found peace with them.
We did.
We
don't like to hang on to things.
No, we don't let go.
Yeah.
And I feel like we resolved all our issues.
Right.
And we got to have them on the show at some point.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can go back and be on their show again for MI3.
We would love that.
So yeah, if you want to check out Minute Impossible, they're on Apple Podcasts and other podcasts wherever you listen to your podcast. You can check out our week-long stay there with them.
Yes.
Which was a lot of fun.
It was fun. And now, on to this week's episode, which I'm very excited about. You're very excited about.
Yes, we had Mo back. He was our first guest ever on the show.
Yes, Mo Shafeek from Mondo, who you just met at my wedding.
In person, finally.
In person, yeah.
Because our initial interview with him was
over
Skype while I was in Oregon.
And
he lives in Austin.
He lives in Austin, and this is a really great... I'm really happy with the way this turned out. Mo is great. Yeah. He's going to prompt you guys for some insight into how they're going to go about their Mission Impossible release operation, let's say.
Yeah, so give us feedback. Give Mo feedback.
Yes, and we'll do prompts on Twitter as well. But he talks about this new Fallout release, why you should buy it now, and that's not just a weird marketing play, but they might not print it again, so get it now.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you should definitely get it. It's fantastic.
And then we talk about the future plans, what it's like getting the rights from Paramount. Mm-hmm. It's a really engaging and forthcoming kind of like peek behind the scenes. I think everybody loves Mondo, but maybe they don't know how they go about getting the rights to these things. And this is a really awesome opportunity to sort of like see that.
Yeah, the peek behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Before we go, though, into the interview.
Yes.
Little update.
Okay.
Got to thank Kevin Blumenfeld for our legally dissimilar music.
Right.
For the Light the Fuse pod theme. We asked Kevin to write us a piece of music. It felt like our episodes were lacking a little bit in transition.
Okay.
When we cut to interview and we cut back from the interview, always felt pretty abrupt. Mm-hmm. Felt like we needed another piece of music there. Mm-hmm. So we asked Kevin, hey, could you write us a little piece of music? Now, Kevin, he's so confident in his lawsuit that's going on against him right now. He feels like his high-priced lawyers that are sucking him dry.
Yeah.
He feels like, I'm going to win this case. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to double down and write you a piece of music. He wrote his version of the plot theme. It is not very legally dissimilar.
By his version of the plot theme, you just mean the plot.
The plot theme.
Yeah.
Afterwards, we listened to it. We were like, Kevin, this is just the plot theme. And he's like, yeah, I don't care. It's fine. So Paramount, you should go for it.
Yeah, you need some ammunition. We just gave you a full clip. So
Kevin is brash.
Yeah.
He is ready to take on your lawyers on another suit. So as you'll hear it start, the music will start now. It'll transition us into this interview. So enjoy, and that's our new piece of music. Thanks, courtesy of Kevin Blumenfeld. Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin, and the dream team of lawyers that you have in your corner. We'll be back after the interview for more stuff, so come back then. So, we're here on Light the Fuse once again, joined by Mo Shafeek. What is your official title, Mo, at Mondo?
Record label manager.
Okay, he's a record label manager. He's my BFF. Sorry, Charles.
It happens.
Okay. And we're so psyched because Mondo just put out the Fallout vinyl, which we both have. Mo, thank you for sending us both of this copy of this amazing record.
Yes, thank you so much.
And
we of course we already have the first one.
Yes.
So right now they've only released the first and Fallout, which are both available. You should absolutely buy them if you haven't already. They're incredible.
MondoTees.com. And
the first one has the like bubblegum red light, green light edition, or it's red.
Yes.
And then Fallout is the plutonium.
Yes.
The record looks like the plutonium from Fallout.
And we're going to have him talk about Fallout, and we're also going to see what we can get out of him about the future releases, which they have teased on Instagram, so this is we're not breaking any laws.
Yes, they did an Instagram story, Mondo, where they sort of look like they had the spines of all 6.
Yes.
So
we're going to have to get to that.
Is there a box set?
We'll find out. So you are also responsible for packaging, too.
On these, yeah. It's a rare example. So Mondo, for those who are unfamiliar with what Mondo does, we got our start doing these limited edition screen printed posters, and we sort of translated that to other mediums. Both vinyl soundtracks, tiki mugs now, board games. We do a little bit of everything, but
collectibles.
Collectibles. We're known for illustrations and like artistic interpretations. But maybe a couple of years ago, I want to say like closer to the proper 20th anniversary of Mission 1, I had asked if we can do Mission Impossible, and everyone was just very, very polite about it, but they just said, that sounds great, but heads up, don't bother. You can't draw Tom Cruise. And we were just like, oh, okay. And that's the reputation we have, even in the industry. They're just sort of like, be wary, like we did Edge of Tomorrow, and even Warner Brothers was like, you gotta, any indication that that's Tom Cruise, you have to get rid of it, because the second it is, then his people need to see it. And then you don't want to wait 6 months to find out that Tom Cruise doesn't like the way you drew the silhouette of his face. And so, he's never said anything to us, or his people never said anything to us, but everyone around have always just been sort of like overprotective of it. So our second record we ever released was Fabio Frizzi's Score to the Beyond, and it's actually just all asset-based. It's all like photo-based. Our co-founder, Rob Jones, did that, and which I feel set us a good precedent, because that way we didn't have to be locked into this whole illustrated thing. So with the creative, sort of shackles on us, so to speak, of not being able to do artistic illustration-based artwork for the Mission Impossible series, I looked back to like classic 60s and 70s vinyl records for things like The Saint and other espionage titles, and sort of took that aesthetic and applied it to Mission 1. And then shortly after that, Paramount reached out about Fallout, and from there we were like, hey, can we do all 6? Because I would do all of them. And they're like, yeah, but the rights are sort of all over the place, because if anyone who paid attention to the way the music industry has worked in the last couple of years, it's been like both vinyl soundtracks were worth their weight in gold, and then they were worth nothing, all within a decade, the late 80s through the 90s, in which that like major labels, my favorite example is that, like, if you know anything about it, it's like Universal, the major labels own Back to the Future 1 and 2, and then between 2 and 3, at some point, somebody decided that the soundtrack to 3 was worth so little that they gave it away in perpetuity to another record label. So, like, like literally in the known universe, Back to the Future 3 is with another record label. Universal just couldn't be bothered between the years 1989 and 1990 to hold on to the third chapter of their trilogy, right? It was just sort of like, yeah, whatever. That won't come back to bite us in the ass.
Wow.
And so, with that in mind, you keep in mind that, like, so the Mission Impossible movies, like, some of the soundtracks are with, like, major labels like Decca and Hollywood Records and Varese Sarabande and Paramount Pictures, like, still own some of them. And so they were just sort of like, good luck if you can figure all of that out. And then, as you sort of teased, and we teased, we did figure all that out. So, yes, we are doing all 6.
All right.
Wow. Do we have a timetable for this?
Well, the easiest way to say is that luckily Christopher McQuarrie has given us a timetable by announcing that his next one is coming out in 2021, and so we'd like to have them all out by then.
Oh wow!
Right
That'd be
now,
awesome.
Right now, we're presently working on Mission 2. So we're not really going in any particular order, obviously. We did 1, we did 6, now we're going back to 2. I think ideally we would do Rogue Nation after that, and then we would finish it up with 3 and 4 at the same time.
Why Rogue Nation next after that? I'm curious.
Well, I don't know, actually. Maybe you can help me sort this out live on the air. It seems a little bit like bouncing back and forth feels a little bit more fun, just given the fact that we've sort of created these, you know, a bookend right there.
Okay,
first
I like
and
that.
last.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
But that's just one way. We could do them in order in theory. It just, and this also gets to the point where we're still sort of hammering out the details as to whether or not we would do a box set specifically, because we're about to enter the next phase of the Mission series, which is always ever evolving, which went from being a series of auteurs, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, but then 5 became 5 and 6, and then now it's 5, 6, 7, and 8 are all the same filmmaker, and then so do you do a box set of the first 4, and then the second 4?
I love that. That would be cool.
So that's where my head's at right now creatively. I'd be interested to hear what the feedback is from people who listen to this, but nothing's set in stone. And by box set, let me be clear that, like, because these are all disparate record label, you know, things that we're sub-licensing and putting out on vinyl for the first time, a lot of these titles, you know, they'll be sold individually, but we may come up with a way to do like a nice little slip cover for those. So it'd be like, we did this for the Halloween series, which is similarly sort of all over the place as far as who owns what.
That was a great workaround too. Have you seen that? I have it out there. It's like
so you added the slip cover to the ones you already own to make it match the box set.
You buy the slip cover along with I don't know, a couple of the records maybe when you're buying them, and then you have a box that has space for the other ones that you just buy the other records and put them in. So you're not buying an $800 5-disc, whatever. You're buying a $30 thing with a couple of other records, and then you fill it in sort of as you go,
so
which is really nice.
So if you already have, like we do, have the first and sixth one, you will be able to get a box set.
You will be able to make your own box set.
You won't have to start over at the end and be like, I gotta buy them all again.
Correct. And that's the other aspect of it, is the box set idea came after we had already started with part 1, so we're already behind the curve. And so in theory, to make sure that no one feels like they can't get anything, it would just be like, oh, we'll have a slip cover that you can buy, or we'll come with one. So like, in theory, if we did put out 3 and 4 at the same time, that would be you would cut the slip cover for that, you'd be able to also fit 1 and 2 in there.
Ooh,
right?
I love this.
And then same thing with 7 and 8. Maybe, hopefully, knock on wood, fingers crossed, that we also get to do those.
And
but,
did one sell out?
One is presently sold out, it looks like.
Oh, no.
But
I think we had something to do with it. No, I'm just kidding.
We keep telling people to get it, but it's not. Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Mo.
It's not sold out for good. There are some titles that we will be able to repress, but there are also some titles that we won't. Again, because every label has its own rules and every license has its own rules. So there may be some that are like set in stone. Luckily, one is Mission 1 is one that we can reorder. We may do a different colorway. We may open it up to something else. I think we did a limited one on the red light, green light one just because we didn't know what to expect. And I like to honor that. I don't want to like go back and be like, oh, we'll make more, even though we said limited. But we would do something like we do another colorway, but there are some titles like Fallout, I believe that we're strictly limited to a certain amount. So I would recommend that if you are on the fence about getting these, you should get them, because once that's sold out, we may not be able to make any more of them. And same thing with Mission 2 and 3 and 4. So worth considering. Not to sleep on these, because if you do want to put together that box set eventually, these aren't going to be perpetually in rotation.
Well, another interesting thing about this new disc that we were actually just had our monthly Patreon call, and we were showing people this on the call, the Skype chat, but you have this really cool sort of bonus disc. Can you talk a little bit about where that came from and how Lauren kind of threw that at you guys?
Yeah, well, so the thing about sequencing vinyl versus CDs is you used to be able to go back and sort of find clear endpoints for sides. One vinyl side can fit only so much, roughly 20 to 22 minutes of material. And when I was looking at the sequence for Fallout, I was like, this is such a long album. This may need to be 3 discs, right? And then, again, with in mind, maybe doing a box set or trying to fit all of them to a similar template and all these things. So I spoke with Lauren and the people at Paramount about, how we wanted to handle it, if they wanted to either reduce some tracks lengths or excise some tracks at all to make it so that it fits a double LP, because we all agreed that a triple LP was a little bit, because we didn't want it to be like a $50 album, right? Like everyone wanted it to be an approachable price point. And so the compromise that Lauren came up with was doing what's called like a vinyl edit for a couple of the tracks towards the end that are a little extended. One called the Syndicate, and a couple other tracks on the side D, just so we can get them all onto 4 platters. But then after all of that, Lauren was like having such a good time with the process of doing all that. He was just like, but I know we can't technically add anything to the album, but like, could we maybe do like a bonus 7-inch or something? I have this other like bonus additional track that like I feel like I always wanted to be on the album, and I know we just like went through this whole thing of like getting rid of tracks or like tossing away the tracks, but I still want to see if I can make it work. And we had introduced the idea of maybe doing a 7-inch or a flexi disc, and the flexi disc being this old-fashioned sort of thing you used to be able to get in magazines and trades, and like it was like sort of a thing that you could throw in a magazine or a comic book that would have playable audio that you can put on your turntable, that felt a little kind of aesthetically Mission Impossible to me, as far as like, they are not meant to be permanent, because they degrade over time, and they're sort of a little bit flimsy, but they can be played like a little piece of thin plastic on your record player. And so it felt very kind of like this thing will self-destruct in 30 seconds, so to speak. So it is sort of this cool little, like, you get to listen to it only so many times before it kind of disappears, but it's also sort of special. It's only being included in this first pressing of the record. So if you got this this first couple of copies of Mission Impossible Fallout, that's the only way you'll be able to get it.
So cool. And it's a cool track too.
Yeah, it's a really cool sounding track. It sounds like it's some kind of remix combining the regret theme, that like kind of sad sort of string thing that goes through the movie. It's in the opening, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's in the beginning of when he imagines the heist, when they kill everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
It's that combined with like the 30 bongos or whatever that are at the same time. It's a really cool sounding track. It's like a square. It plays, but it's a square and it's flimsy. So it's
so cool.
And it has a little message on it that says it will self-destruct in 5 seconds after you watch it, or whatever. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Our hats off to you.
How was
Thank
working
you.
with Lauren? I mean, very briefly this weekend, he almost adopted us. That kind of fell through the track.
On Twitter,
cracks,
on Twitter, he said he was going to adopt us. He said he was going to order us kilts.
Yeah.
And then he, because he was listening to our Mission Music Month episode where we talked about the Fallout score, but then at the end of the episode we ranked all the scores. So then he tweeted later and said, "Oh, never mind. I heard your rankings. I rescind my offer to adopt you."
Oh, that sounds like conditional love.
Yes, I mean we're used to it, quite frankly.
Yeah,
so
the whole show's about us trying to find a father figure. So our search continues.
But
that's
we
right.
do still love him.
From the very first episode, that was the theme of the show.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have any children yet, so right now it seems I'll talk to my wife when we get off the phone. We'll see if there's room in the house.
We
you
would
guys
love that.
can certainly.
We need a place to stay in Austin. Like,
And you seem really wise beyond your years. You could really help mentor us. I think we need it.
Yeah. No, Lauren, to answer your question, Lauren's been great, but I'll be honest. The amount of communication we've had with him directly has been very little. In the nicest terms, when we do these reissues, there's a lot of people who work between all different parties, and so we've spoken with assistants and we've been on emails with him, but a lot of the communication has always just been like, I'm recording something else, can I get back to you? Or like, yeah, I want to sign some copies, send them here and I'll get them to you while between recording sessions and stuff like that. So super busy, and we're super busy too, so everything has been super positive and he seems really happy with the finished result, and that means the world to us. But yeah, I mean, I haven't quite been able to sit down and chat with him like you guys have in those episodes where you did, and it's sometimes a shame, but every now and then when things do slow down, we do get to sometimes have chats with people whenever they come to town or travel. Like I actually got to have a good conversation with Joe Kramer, who did Rogue Nation when he was in town for the Score documentary, and he was the loveliest. And I hope to do that someday with Lauren.
That's great.
Yeah, we love Lauren, and for anybody who has, I know I feel like we've picked up more listeners recently who probably haven't revisited older episodes. Lauren was on a much earlier episode that you should definitely listen to. We interviewed Lauren Balfe. We also interviewed Mo. I think Mo was our first guest. I think very early on. So you should check that out. When the first Mission Impossible score came out, we talked to Mo. So this is the second time we've had him on the show. Very, very highly recommend you listen to our first chat with Mo where we talk about Elfman's score.
Yes.
It's a good one.
And you had a question about the packaging, too. Specifically, the font choice.
Well, yes, I love that you brought in the same... So the font for the very first Mission Impossible movie is a very specific thing with the kind of line through it. And you brought that font kind of back on the Fallout cover. The word Fallout is like consistent with the Fallout font that you see in posters and stuff, but Mission Impossible, the words Mission Impossible are still the same font for the first movie, which I love that you did that. It's so cool. Are you, what went into that, and are you going to continue that trend through the other movies?
Yes, fingers crossed. Unless you talking about this out loud gets my wrist slapped by anybody involved. I will. Right now, it seems like everyone is okay with using the classic Mission Impossible 1 font for all 6 as presented to Paramount. The weird caveats that have been, because we've sort of laid out rough constructions of all 6 based on this template. The interesting thing that's been more interesting, no one has mentioned anything about font choice. It's always just been what photos can and can't be used. And so, I've presented sort of rough layouts for the covers of all 6 and the back covers of all 6. All the back covers follow the same exact rigid formula, but because of the size and shape of all the different logos for each film, all the front covers have to sort of be slightly adjusted as far as like where they're placed and how, also all of them have like the weirdest phrasing for their soundtrack titles. Like Mission Impossible 1 is, I'm looking at music from the motion picture score. The Fallout is music from the original motion picture. They all have like very interesting. Let me see what Mission 2 is. I have to double check.
And you have to put that on the cover. That's like a thing that you have to have on there.
Yeah, just because of music by.
Wow.
Yeah, so they all have their own unique phrasing. So they're all like that. But yes, right now, as of July 28th. They all have the same font for Mission Impossible, even Rogue Nation, which I guess is when it started getting more explicitly weird. Or maybe Ghost Protocol, I can't remember. But yeah, because MI 1 and 2, at the very least, just got reduced down to that MI 2 thing, right? Mm-hmm. Rogue Nation has the same font for its actual subtitle, Rogue Nation, but Mission Impossible is in the Mission 1 font.
Oh my god.
That's so cool. I love that.
You're doing God's work, Mo. That's all I can say. You're doing God's work.
But I need help because I want to make sure that I can figure out how to make some cool vinyl color choices for the rest, right?
Ooh.
So if anyone has any suggestions for what you never see the rabbit's foot, right? So I don't know what fun colors correspond with 3 off the top of my head, and I just spitballing out here. If anyone has any cool vinyl color concepts or ideas for the next couple of titles,
I got one for you for 3.
What's that?
You do like some kind of print that echoes a windmill on the disc.
Okay.
That's
like
classic scene in the wind farm, whatever.
Yeah.
Forget it. These are great ideas.
What was the chimera in the second one? And you probably already have a plan for 2.
Yeah.
So, because I was gonna say that whatever that is, that green goo?
Goo,
Is that
yeah.
what it is? Yeah. But so 3.
It's definitely like a green, like what we all envisioned all bacteria looked like from a it's like all bacteria comes in these green test tube with like a little like syringe gun.
What if you
that,
did
like fire with like white doves flying in?
Yes.
You could do like a sandstorm colorway for Ghost Protocol.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That could be cool.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of red particulars. I know you did something
that
sort of
kind
like
of
that.
Rusty.
Yeah. The regular version of Roger Rabbit has it sort of looks like her dress with red with kind of sequin-y spots on it.
Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah, I don't know if we've talked about that on the show or if we talked about that before we were recording.
Oh yes.
But Mo also did the Who Framed Roger Rabbit release.
Yes, and it is amazing, and I suggest everybody. Is that sold out already, Mo, or not yet?
The Comic-Con version sold out,
okay.
But we have another version available on our website. Yeah, we do all types of soundtracks, both for like horror genre and classic 80s stuff. And we just released the original soundtrack to 1988's Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which is something that I've been working on for a very long time. Yeah. And I'm super proud of. So
I feel like I talked to you about that 5 years ago. I knew you're Charles and I are obsessed with merchandise, and there is nothing else really Mission Impossible related on the merchandise front. Can we expect some perhaps pins or t-shirts or...
Yes.
Charles wears his Stanley Kubrick production shirt a lot. I think he would love one that has something Mission Impossible related. Where are we on that front? Or is that something that you have explored and just deemed too political and complicated?
Yeah, I only do the soundtracks at Mondo, and that's not like an out for me exclusively to not answer this question, but we're all huge fans of the franchise. I think that it really just depends on what the studio is up for, right? It could be cool. I think pins and posters and all that stuff would be really rad. A board game? Are you kidding me? Like, I would love to do a Mission Impossible board game.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, like, that's where sort of that's where my creative input ends. Like, the cool thing about working at Mondo is that I have unlimited creative freedom to do whatever I want in my department. So like, me and my coworker Spencer, we just work on vinyl soundtracks, and I can be like, I want to do Josie and the Pussycats, and he won't stop me. And vice versa, like he can be like, I want to do Porno Holocaust, this like really obscure slasher softcore porn Italian thing, and I'd be like, that sounds great. And so that's great because he's not stopping me from doing all 6 Mission Impossible films. And then but at the same time, I can only lobby so much my other coworkers to go down the path of heavy resistance if there is to do other mission merch. But it is a shame because I mean the groundswell that's erupting right now of fans who, partially because of you guys, putting your foot down and being like, there are dozens of us, but saying like, we love Mission Impossible, like it came out, and after Fallout, it sort of was the real true fuse lighting of a fandom that has been existent for over 23 years, right? So I mean, and beyond, obviously, from the original series, but I mean, of the films, I'd like to think that this is Paramount's like real golden, what do you call that? The golden goose?
Yeah.
What do you call it?
Golden goose.
And that like they need to get savvy to it, but it is also sort of up to all the other parties involved. maybe they learned a lesson early on with Mission 1 and their action figures and their comic books that had to be recalled and stuff like that, that it's just, it's not quite as easy as they want it to be. But, we also want to do Top Gun stuff, and, like, apparently that's also sort of a weird, you can't just do Top Gun merch, right? It's like, there's, like, a very, awesome, amazing, talented elephant in the room at all times with a lot of those things. And luckily, the soundtracks they've all been vetted. Everything that has to go through the Cruise's people does. But again, we're only using photo assets that were previously approved. So we're lucky that we are allowed to reuse them in interesting ways and different ways than previously intended. But we have not quite crossed the threshold of being able to say, like, hey, we thought it was a great idea that we want to do chimera pins, and we want to do rabbit's foot keychains, and we want to give everyone, like, the we want to make enamel pins of Kerry Russell's face from when her eye explodes in Mission 3. I don't know. I don't know what and so, yeah, fingers crossed maybe someday, but at the moment right now, no other explicit plans for other merchandise.
I'm going to draw this line in the sand. We want a Mondo show before the next movie. It's a co-production with Light the Fuse. We're going to get every great artist to do something. It might not have Tom's face on it, but to do an interpretation, because
posters and stuff.
Posters, pins, we should work to make that happen.
Yeah.
It's a dream.
Hey, I'd love that. It's funny because similarly, there's another major franchise. You might have heard of it. It's the James Bond.
Never heard of it.
That is it's sort of this weird old people thing. But it's this it's another franchise that's eluded us because they're also similarly very overprotective of it because of talent and all that stuff. So you speak with the people at Eon Productions about doing similar things, and they're like, that sounds so great. By the way, you can't draw anybody.
Right.
And
you guys have never done a Bond poster, have you?
No.
Wow.
And we've asked. We've done. We were actually, like, in the midst of doing a Skyfall pressing of the soundtrack on vinyl many years ago, and the studio was sort of like, yeah, go ahead. And then we submitted sketches, and they were like, what do you think you're doing? And we're like, oh, what we always do. And they're like, you can't draw Daniel Craig. And you go, like, we can't? And they're just like, no, of course not. Like, that's not allowed. And then they said, and basically, like, could you just use the photos that are approved? And, I guess we could have done that, but we were sort of, like, a little more stubborn then and didn't, there's the difference between this and Mission, which is, like, we went in with the, like, mindset of, like, okay, we can't do Tom Cruise, right? But because of that, we had sort of, like, gotten pretty far along the path, and we had artists in mind. We had this whole vision for what we were going to do. And then we're just like, well, if it's not, we maybe this is not worth it, because the soundtracks that exist on vinyl for all the Bond movies all already have better art than we could do just by putting photos on the cover. I mean, all those great illustrations of all the Bond soundtracks already exist. So if we can't do, like, this cool classic, like, Bond painting of, Daniel Craig in, very classic style, then, maybe it's probably best if it just comes out with, photos, like the CD version. And so we ultimately, very amicably decided to step away from it. But because of that, we've also sort of have not been able to touch Bond, which is a shame, because it's a massive, massive franchise that we, feels like an omission. It'd be like if we weren't doing anything Marvel right now, right? It's like 50 years of filmmaking right there that you can't touch. So I would love to. I mean, a Mission Impossible gallery show would be amazing. It would be, and so many artists, I'm sure, are obsessed with similarly obsessed with the franchise. It'd be very fun to do.
All right, we're gonna do it. You feeling hopeful?
I believe.
Charles fell asleep, but I'm still here.
No, I'm ready. I want it. I will buy so much stuff from that show. It's just like, is Jay Shaw still at Mondo?
He is, yeah.
What is he doing posters? I think last time we talked, he said he was doing board games at this point. Or what?
Yeah. He's our board game guy now.
Okay.
He's on his way up to Gen Con this week to work on the premiere of a couple of new titles that we're releasing. Something called Video Vortex, which is an original IP game, and then this title called Unmatched, which is...
I don't understand that at all, Mo. Let me just tell you that right now. I don't get it.
But hey, you, like I said, speak to Jay.
I'll talk to Jay. He'll explain it to me.
Mission Impossible, the board game.
Yes.
Oh my God, I will talk to Jay. Jay did the poster for my movie Night Owls, which we've talked about before. But he's amazing. I will totally send him an email.
Do it.
To be like, can you make a mission? Because there actually were 2 Mission
Yeah.
Impossible board games, I think in the 60s and 70s, that we need to buy them.
Yeah.
They're on eBay.
Yeah.
And we've talked about buying them. We should just buy them, and we've talked about maybe playing the game on the show.
Yeah.
Oh, you absolutely should. Yeah.
But a new board game would be better.
Yes.
Be awesome. I want that. So yeah, maybe I should send an email to Jay.
We'll work on that. I feel like in the next couple of years, like we have a good head start before the next movie. We can get some things accomplished. Mm-hmm. You had some questions for Mo, didn't you?
Well, yeah, I wanted to. Well, I don't know if we got your hair rankings last time.
Oh yeah.
I feel like we want to ask.
Mo has great hair too, so this is gonna be.
So I think
Aw,
you have expert opinion on hair. So. Do you have hair rankings? Because there's been a lot of talk about Tom Cruise's hair lately on the show.
Yeah.
And we did our music month with Jeremy Dillon, which was awesome. We broke down the music and he had some controversial opinions about the hair, and I need to be reinforced about the way we feel about the hair. I'd love to hear your thoughts. How would you rank Tom Cruise's hair in the movies?
Oh man. So it's weird. I'm not as big a fan of the long hair as some other people are. But it's not that I dislike it. I think that it's just not my, it's I like it in the films, but I don't necessarily think that like I'm attracted to that version of Ethan Hunt.
Okay.
I think that like I'm attracted to Mission 1 Ethan Hunt.
Oh, we'd love that.
Yes. Jeremy was putting him down.
Ugh.
That's just absurd.
Yeah.
But similarly, I'm similarly not that into Rogue Nation Ethan Hunt. I'm more into Ghost Protocol Ethan Hunt than I am Rogue Nation Ethan Hunt. So maybe I'm just all over the place.
Yeah, you are, because his hair is definitely longer in Ghost Protocol.
I guess if I had to pick, it would probably be Mission 1, Rogue Nation hair, then probably the other 3 short hairs, and then Mission 2, I guess, is my least favorite hair, which is unfortunate.
So where's Ghost Protocol? I think you said you had.
Yeah, I'm saying one then 4.
Okay, one then 4.
So
okay.
Mission 1, Ghost Protocol, then probably Mission 3 hair, then Fallout hair, then Rogue Nation, and probably 2 are tied.
We're a big fan of his micro bangs in Fallout. We think that's kind of an interesting look.
Micro bangs?
It's because it kind of falls in his forehead, but it's still kind of like
beautiful.
It's so nice. It's
so hard. I think hair rankings are the hardest thing to do.
Yeah, they really are.
I really think that for the next 2, he should do like a haircut we don't see coming.
Well, did you? I don't know if you listened to our unmade Mission Impossible 2 episode, but Charles can explain this better.
No, I don't know when we talked about this. It was from John Woo's commentary. So I think it might have been the Making of MI2 episodes. We brought this up. John Woo in his commentary said that the opening of the movie was going to be, because it's a reveal that Sean Ambrose is pretending to be Ethan Hunt in the opening scene. So it was going to be Ethan Hunt with the short haircut from the first movie in the opening sequence. And then when they reveal the real Ethan Hunt, he was going to have long hair while he was mountain climbing. Thoughts?
I love that. That'd been great. That would be a great bait and switch. And I think now that I'm thinking about that time period, I am thinking that like my relationship with long hair Tom Cruise is so strictly tied to Magnolia, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, but in which he is like such a piece of shit.
Right.
So I think that I look at that Tom Cruise and I don't see like suave, like sexy secret agent. I look at like men's rights activist Tom Cruise.
Right.
Yeah.
Somebody brought this up on Twitter, and I really should pose it to you, is that apparently there was a Tiesto remix of Mission Impossible theme music for Ghost Protocol that was never actually used on any official soundtrack release, but was some kind of weird promotional thing, it looks like. Could we see the Tiesto remix of the Mission Impossible theme on this vinyl release?
Unlikely. I think the scores have to live in their own world, but this is something that I had to come to terms with when working on Mission 2, which is, so more than any of the other films, so explicitly tied to its soundtrack as on top of its score, right? Because you can't like talk about that movie without talking about the fact that there's a Limp Bizkit version, right?
And the Metallica song is what started the Napster lawsuit.
It is. It's so absurd that's like the history of that album. But so when talking about it, I was like, I feel like slight remorse that we can't also include the Limp Bizkit track, right? And so maybe there's a version in the future if it's needed by the world, right, where we go back and we put together this like mixtape album of all the Mission themes, right? Because
that would be amazing.
There's the Adam Clayton Jr. The U2 one, right, so to speak. There's that, and then there's the Limp Bizkit one. Then you guys mentioned that there's a Kanye West one,
and with John Bryan.
With John Bryan. And then there's also I got Tiesto. Apparently, this is news to me. And I know it's not actually from the film, but like that weird Imagine Dragon song that was featured in the trailer,
which Lauren remixed to make it sound more like the theme song. So that's actually a version that you can't get anywhere else, but in the trailer.
Lauren said that he had adjusted that track, I think.
Yeah.
Did he say that in that interview? Or
I don't know.
Did he tell us off the air?
Well, he's our dad. He'll understand. Kids screw up, you know. We mentioned it before.
I don't think it's a big deal.
No.
He. And the other thing too is, I don't know if you listened to our music episodes recently, but someone sent us this on Twitter, and then we added it to our episode. There's a song version of the Mission Impossible theme from 1968 by the Kane Triplets.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That has lyrics.
Well, I'll send it to you, Mo. It's a trip for sure.
Yeah. You got to get that on there too.
Yeah, this sounds like a pretty smooth sailing rights wise.
Yeah, you got it under control. You're fine.
Yeah. And the cover will just be a drawing of Tom Cruise's face. It'll
be great. Done by Charles.
Yeah.
The good thing is that my drawing skills are not the same as Ethan's, so
there'll be no likeness.
Tom will be like, sure.
Oh yeah, you have to do it from photographic memory. Yes. You can't do it from And in the palm of your hand with a ballpoint pen.
Yes.
We love his drawing skills so much.
They need to come back in 7 and 8. It's so important.
We need to lobby for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
How did you decide on the image for the cover and the image on the inside gatefold? Because it reminded me, you talking about the albums of the 60s and 70s. I remember I found The Godfather at a flea market, and the inside cover is them at the dinner table, like the Last Supper kind of image across the entire thing. Which is what this reminded me of. But how did you decide on those images?
Well, the newer ones have a wealth of really amazing stills. I mean, a lot of the gatefolds are all going to be stunt based. The only one that's sort of like tricky is, because, the first one, him jumping out of the thing seems small, but it just, he still broke his ankle doing that, right? And then the second one, riding on a motorcycle, doing all these crazy things. But for Mission 3, there's not like a really big stunt that has like the same sort of like, weight that, a lot of the other ones carry. So I'm still trying to figure out what the great gatefold image for 3 is going to be. But all the other films,
I have a pitch. So
what's that?
It was done a lot with VFX, but he really did do the jump at Universal, and they did it in front of a blue screen. But when he jumps off the building on top of Shanghai, it's a pretty beautiful image of Shanghai and him, like, he's fully, like, his body is like splayed or whatever.
Yeah.
That could be a pretty fun image of him.
I was gonna say them on the boat in the river after
the boat would fill the frame pretty well. Yeah, when they're after the Vatican.
Plus, that was like the one shot. Like, they were milking that for the cameras too, because that was
the first day of shooting.
Yeah, that was the first image anybody saw. It was in every single tabloid.
Yeah, it's the whole team on the boat.
Yeah,
that's a good one too for MI3.
Yeah.
And then 4, he climbs a building or something. I guess there's some cool stuff in that.
I don't
know.
And
then
or wait, with 3 also, when he comes into the Vatican and he does the the reference to the first movie.
Yes,
when
that's
he's
true.
in his suit and he comes down. That might be a more horizontal looking thing.
Yeah.
It's not a very big stunt though at all.
What do you think of for 5?
Right now there's a really great image of him actually running across the top of a plane, which is still pretty great. Because that with that one, we're trying to avoid the image of him strapped to the plane because it's like been so used with all the other promotional art for Mission 5. So presently it's it's him actually running across a moving plane on its wings, which I think is still pretty, like, even though it's not him tied to a plane, it's still a pretty impressive
it's so cool.
image.
The other cool image they did use in a lot of ads, though, is that shot of him looking backwards on the motorcycle and the thing exploding behind him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an incredible image too.
Yeah. Well, we cannot wait for all of these.
Yeah. So excited.
Me too. I'm excited. They're all amazing scores in their own right. And I'm so excited that people are excited, right? Like, we put these out and then every time we're sort of just like, I hope anyone cares. And the idea that, Mission 2 being this weird black sheep amongst fans, the score is really good and really interesting. And it's Hans Zimmer, it's like Hans Zimmer, around the same time as Gladiator, it's like, so, it's not.
He's got Lisa Gerrard on there, just like in Gladiator.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's it's really interesting. Lots of Spanish guitar, and the version we're releasing is expanded past what the original CD was. So it'll feature some tracks that were not previously released in any format.
That's awesome.
Charles is vibing just thinking about these tracks. Just
it is a great score. Like I don't really love what he did with the main theme, but the score itself is a lot of beautiful music.
Yeah.
All the flamenco vibe stuff, and I don't know, it's great.
It is.
I feel like we might get in trouble to ask Mo to rank the scores, but we should get an update on your ranking. Did we talk to him before Fallout came out?
We talked to him right after Fallout came out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I feel like he was still digesting, so maybe now have your rankings of the movies overall changed?
I think when Fallout came out, when we spoke, which actually I was looking at our Skype call thing, and I saw that we had spoken August 2nd of last year. So
oh wow,
so right after it came out.
Yeah. So I think I can't remember if it was my second favorite at that point in time. I might have been putting Ghost Protocol back and forth, but before it, but I think Fallout is my second favorite. Mission 1 still holds the top spot, and maybe out of a vacuum I can see that there's better ones, but I have such like a relationship with the first one that I don't think it'll ever be displaced, and not for anything, like it doesn't have to be, right? I think that like even if Fallout and Ghost Protocol are like the ones I want to go and rewatch more, I still think that 1 is the movie that, like, I don't know, holds my place in my heart. So yeah, it's 1, 6, then 4, then 5, then 3, then 2, but 3 and 5 go back and forth. I don't really Rogue Nation's great, but I don't feel the need to rewatch it as often. Yeah, I still rewatch 3 more than I rewatch Rogue Nation, even though I like it more. It's a really weird relationship with that film.
That's interesting.
3 is a real, people have really interesting relationships with 3, including us.
It feels like 3 is the most polarizing.
Yeah.
And most people, there are people who defend 2, but I think most people really put 2 at the bottom. And then 3 can be as high as like number 1 for some people, and then 5 for others. Actually, there's some people even put 3 as the worst one.
Yeah. I've heard that both on your podcast and also just in real life. There's some people who just literally like don't get how you can like 3. And my relationship with 3 changed a bunch because when I first saw it, I thought it was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Why didn't anyone tell me this was amazing? And then I've showed it to people, and then when watching it with people, I've been like, oh, this is actually not a good movie. And then I watch it by myself, and I'm like, this movie rules. I have no idea. I don't know why I have that relationship, but like, it's just, I go back and forth on that. And even then, like, I need to say this out loud. Mission 2 has grown for me so much, and like that movie, I think that if everyone could just go back as an adult and rewatch it on the big screen on like 35 millimeter, like I did a couple years ago when I had this like re-evaluation of it, I'd be like, oh no, this movie needs to be seen as big and loud as possible to appreciate sort of the lunacy of what's going on here.
Because, we'd love to see it like that. Well, I'll send you. We did a commentary track for 2, which I will send to you.
It's for our Patreon subscribers who sign up for bonus content, but we'll send it to you. You can check it out. You can hear our
minute by minute
our madcap commentary.
Allow me to talk to your audience for a second. If you're not if you're not signing up for these guys' Patreon, what are you guys doing? Come on. These guys are
thank
giving
you.
Premium quality content week after week. When I first heard that they were doing a Mission Impossible podcast, I was like, oh, that's a cool little capsule thing for them to do leading up to Fallout. And then here they are, a full year later, still giving you Mission Impossible content, and it's still all really good. You guys should support these guys on Patreon. It's great. And you get commentaries.
Yeah.
Which I haven't heard, admittedly, but I need to.
Yeah, we'll send them to you.
That sounds great.
Thank you so much, Mo. That really means a lot. Thank you.
Yes. It has taken over our lives in all sorts of horrible ways. So any kind of positive reinforcement we appreciate.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you need to plug before we go?
I feel like this has been nothing but a plug. So all I'll say is I'll plug you guys. Guys, listen to this keep listening to this podcast. Tell your friends about it, and let's start all just even in the downtime between movies. Let's all just keep talking about how great this franchise is. It's great.
That's what we
Everyone
try
needs
to do.
to just. Yeah, it's really important that we all never forget that, because we're about to get, Bond, I don't know, the 75 or whatever, in a couple of months, and they're shooting it, and it's a hot mess, and, and not to disparage Bond, because I love the Bond franchise also, but, everyone's going to start the conversation again about how great and important and special James Bond franchise is, but I am going to stand over here in the corner and just wait patiently for my Mission movies to come back, because these are, to me, far more interesting and important movies to come back, because they'll be, James Bond used to be the stunt franchise. It used to be the franchise in which, a stunt double, admittedly, would still, but on skis, jump off a goddamn cliff set to the Beach Boys or whatever, and it was impressive, and it was like something you needed to see on the big screen, or someone would literally make a car flip across a river, and even though there'd be a slide whistle, it'd still be fucking magic. And, we're going to get some weird, $200 million, CG movie with very little stunt work, and it'll be cool. But, we'll all know deep in our hearts that what we're waiting for real brilliant cinema is, real destination cinema is Mission 7, whatever it may be called.
Yeah.
We couldn't say it better ourselves. Yeah. And we appreciate that you understand that we are trying to keep this franchise alive, and hopefully someone from Paramount will listen to this one.
Wait, before you go though, I just want to quickly just to help plug you a little bit. I wanted to ask you, what are some of the favorite albums you've done outside of Mission Impossible, to let people know some of the other titles that you have out there?
Oh man, this year alone we've done Silence of the Lambs with Howard Shore. It's an expanded version that's really, really special. We've done the soundtrack to this video game called Metal Gear Solid, which will be coming out online. A little spy thing for people who can connect those dots. We've done the soundtrack to Popstar, Never Stop, Never Stopping.
Oh yeah, did you see all the covers that they did?
Yeah, they look
amazing. That is so amazing.
Because you did all their albums. It's not like just a soundtrack for the movie, right? It's like they're different albums that are in the movie.
Well, it's just
right?
different covers.
Okay, yeah.
It's the film soundtrack, but you have different options depending on what your favorite inside joke in the movie is. There's 5 different really great fake albums from the film. And we basically gave all of them super limited pressings, but if you really thought that Thriller also was the best joke as opposed to standing in front of buildings, you can pick your poison. And then I'm trying to think of what else has been in and around that's pretty cool. Are
we any closer to Predator?
Someone already pressed that, so I have to push that on pause for a little while. There's just there's so many amazing scores in so little time, and and maybe that's because I'm spending so much time putting out 6 Mission Impossible soundtracks instead of other things. But I got my Silvestri fix with Who Framed Roger Rabbit, check that out. If you love the Predator score, same year.
Yeah, that's crazy. Wow.
So, but yeah, and we've done everything from Back to the Future to Jurassic Park to Jaws, and then my partner Spencer does a lot of really cool horror and genre stuff. We just did the soundtrack to The Wind. We're doing a bunch of Italian stuff like Argento films. We did Profondo Rosso and Buio Omega, and we're getting around to a couple of his other Four Flies and Grey Velvet, some other really great stuff from that era from Italian cinema. So if you like that scene, we have plenty of that as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mo, again, for coming on the show. And, we love talking to you no matter the circumstances. So if anything else comes up or we want to announce when the release of 2 is coming out, come back on and we would love to chat.
Thank you so much. And yeah, please have me back anytime.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Mo.
Wow, that really is exactly the plot. Is
the plot
note for note. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right.
Thank you very much, and we hope that this new lawsuit will end well for you.
As long as you're not coming after our Patreon grosses and T-shirt sales, that's fine.
Speaking of which, we have a new Rogue Nation T-shirt.
We do.
Which is an obscure Rogue Nation reference, maybe too obscure, some would say. But that's
How
okay.
many of these shirts have we sold?
A few.
Okay.
A few. So, only the Rogue Nation super fans.
Right.
But check that out at our TeePublic page. We link to it from our website, lightthefusepodcast.com. And
subscribe to our Patreon.
Yes, thank you. Please subscribe to our Patreon, Light the Fuse. That's www.patreon.com/lightthefuse. And speaking of which, this episode is brought to you by Jeremy Dillon. And it is
who we just had lunch with.
We just had lunch with Jeremy, and it was lovely.
Yeah, he's a
such
great guy.
Great guy. Yeah, he's really fun. Fun guy to talk to about movies and music, and yeah, he's just very knowledgeable and awesome.
Yeah,
we love him. And then also the episode's mixed by Luke Burson. So thank you to Luke as well.
And remember to like, subscribe, rate, review.
Yes.
Reach out on Twitter or Instagram on Light the Fuse Pod. Email us lightthefusepodcast@gmail.com. And we look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks again for listening, everyone. And before we go, another mission, should you choose to accept it. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. And remember that you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at LightTheFusePod and email us questions or comments at lightthefusepodcasts@gmail.com. If you'd like to watch the original Mission Impossible television show, all 7 seasons are currently available to stream on Amazon Prime. This message will self-destruct in 5 seconds.